Content advisory warning, this video does feature some profanity in a quoted source, so if you have small kids present, maybe this will be a video that you'll enjoy later or with headphones. Thank you, and let's go ahead and roll the video. So on Sunday night, Joe Rogan started trending for his comments regarding video games and how they're a real problem because they're really exciting and they don't get you anywhere, is the quote that's going on. To set some context, let's go ahead and listen to this clip, and then we're going to talk about it.
Wanted to do for a living, like the path, like a career path. But I think that there's a lot of people that don't have any, there's no one, they're not modeling their life after someone that they see that they admire, someone that's successful, someone that is doing something that they enjoy and love. Sometimes kids have to see that. Right. And if their parents are living a bullshit life and their neighbors are living a bullshit life and most of their family lives a bullshit life, they just fucking lay around, you know, and then they seek refuge in drugs or video games or something that stimulates them. And video games are a real problem. They're a real problem. You know why? Because they're fucking fun.
Addictive.
And you don't, I have a real problem with them. And you do them and they're real exciting, but you don't get anywhere. Right. It's like you could do like martial arts, right? You could learn jujitsu. You get obsessed by jiu-jitsu, and then 3 years later, you're like an elite jiu-jitsu athlete. You're entering in competitions. You're a purple belt.
You're moving up.
Yeah, you're doing well. Right. You're thinking like, I might be able to open my own school one day.
You got confidence.
Yeah, if I have 100 students and those 100 students are paying me X amount of dollars per month, I can make a living. Holy shit, I can have this would be amazing. And then you see your jiu-jitsu school, and your jiu-jitsu instructor has all these students and drives a Mercedes, and he's got a nice family, and like, that's the future. This way you're doing something exciting and fun, and you don't, or you could just be playing fucking video games. 3 years later, you could be that same kid just playing video games, waiting for the next whatever the fuck game is, next Xbox game to come out, and you're gonna waste your time.
You have children. I have children, and it's a big battle in the house. Yes. And my kids, I don't know if you're going through this, but my kids are now saying, well, Dad, this guy made all this money with this video game.
That's real too. That's
right?
real too now.
So like, that's 1 in a billion, kid. Like,
I don't know if it's 1 in a billion, but, look, I heard the same argument about comedy. My own parents were like, do you know how few people make it as a comedian? I was like, okay, does anybody make it? Somebody makes it, right? They figure out how to do it. They make a living. I'm going to do that. Yeah. Just stop. Like, I know what I'm doing.
So the first thing that I want to take away and really jump in on this conversation is that I don't really like when these clips trend on the internet. You have to go back at least a couple of minutes to get the context of what they're talking about. And so if you guys didn't catch that from the clip that I just played, they're talking about these kids who grow up really not seeing or learning how to have any personal drive, usually dealing with very rich and wealthy, affluent parents. So that, those parents, they don't have an example. These kids don't have an example of what it means to work hard, to strive, to create, to build something. They just kind of coast on the fact that everything and anything is available to them at any point in time. I think you and I, probably just being average people, going to a job, doing that job, getting a paycheck, and finding some time to carve out for ourselves, whether that's with friends or with, a controller playing a video game. Whether we're trying to do that professionally for some kind of YouTube or content creation career, or just for the simple love of the game itself, are video games a waste of time? Well, hopefully this is what this video is going to explore, but I just wanted to set that context because there is a real key differentiator becoming a waste of time versus that of a career, because they go on beyond this clip that was going and trending into the concept of there are plenty of people who make lots of money playing video games. And Joe's guest, like he says, like, what are the odds? Like, what are the odds that you're going to make it like a ninja? And Ninja even weighs in on this conversation, just being a part of that. And Joe kind of shoots that down because he said that he never had parents that were really trying to kill that mindset. Because if you start worrying about the odds, that's just an extra anchor dragging you down. And so, he was told the same things. What are the odds you're going to make it in comedy? And you just kind of have to shut that mindset out. I think there is a level of practicality that we have to bring to this conversation. And I'm going to use my parents as an example. My dad said, get a degree that you can support a family in, and then do whatever the hell you want. And it's the mindset that you should, especially if you're looking to have a family of your own, have kids of your own, there's a practicality that you should be augmenting or at least directing your life in some fashion in a way to be able to provide for that, to live that dream, if that is your dream. But there's also something to say, and I don't think the clip essentially highlights it, but I think Joe, outside of the clip, does at least a good idea of at least kind of dancing around it, is that there is a personal drive that you have to have. And even though I've put out guides on how to work on content, one of the things that you do have to have is you have to kind of be a self-starter. Or if you're not a self-starter, that's perfectly fine too. But note that if you're going to jump into content creation, into streaming, into professional anything, especially kind of being your own business or business person, there is a level of drive that has to come from within you, because I guarantee you the world is going to work against you in every way that it can. There's going to be plenty of people telling you that you can't do what you want to do, that your dream doesn't make sense. And it's so hard because I don't know your specific dream. If your dream is to be like the biggest drug lord in the world, well, maybe listen to the people telling you not to do it. But, for the most part, if your dream, you should really go and try to seize the day and chase your dreams and work hard to your dreams and come up with a plan and learn how to be flexible and learn how to pivot and learn how to, learn from failure. I think learning from failure is one of the key metrics of successful people. There's many more, and we're not going to talk about it here. I wanted to speak also kind of from a personal level regarding video games and the concept of quote unquote waste of time. Because for me, video games taught me how to read. Final Fantasy VI being an example of that in my life. Exciting me enough to dive into it, to study the words, and even take words I couldn't understand or my brain couldn't decipher because I'm dyslexic, to my teacher so I could get extra help in understanding what they meant. And some words were very helpful, and some words I felt like an idiot. Once she, said, "Hey, that's how you sounded," I was like, "Oh, I know that word. I don't know why I couldn't see it." It was a real struggle to me as a kid. And video games were, a great escape in that regards. I wouldn't change that for the world. I'm also sitting here as a parent, with kids and playing video games, trying to find that right balance, because it wasn't just, and it shouldn't just be about video games. Because at some point there is the reality of addiction. Video games have that excitement. They give you that dopamine that can keep you coming back for more. And what's just sinister about the video game industry in a whole, and you and I have probably experienced this numerous times, is the amount of study and research they go into trying to get us to spend money. And this is the concept and the outrage that gamers, especially gamers in my generation, rage against microtransactions. It's the deceptive nature of it. It's that, how do we get them to open their wallets? Let's play tricks on that dopamine, getting them that hit, that excitement and stuff like that. So that's a whole other problem probably for another video and another day. So a part of the clip, and I want to kind of talk about it, is that mindset of that, how they're addicting, how Joe can have that problem with it. And that in and of itself is a good self-realization. If you're finding yourself irritable and angry and not able to, function without having to get your hit of your video game, etc., like that in and of itself is something maybe to be considered and to be concerned about. If you find yourself not having any kind of direction in life, maybe that's something to be concerned about. I think the problem isn't, though, the video game itself, right? Because people can get lost in movies and books and golf. And, there's all kinds of things that you can absorb and lose yourself in at any point in time. Anything can be addictive. Anything can be a problem. It's just a matter that, what do we value, right? Because you can take that skill that you have with a video game and, with enough hard work, enough effort, maybe a little luck tossed in there, being in the right place at the right time, still is a thing that, just makes sense, right? Ninja was in the right place at the right time. With Fortnite, Ninja had skill, he had talent, he put himself out there, and then essentially that ended up working for him. And then eventually he was in the right place and the right time again when he got acquired by Mixer, and then the right place and right time again when Mixer sold out to Facebook. So he's like, all right, bud, good, congratulations on that. So there is a right place and right time mechanic there. But there's also that drive. Do you want to be a content creator? Do you want to be a gamer? There's many avenues when it comes down to game creation. And that's from making the games themselves. That's from understanding how games are made. That's reporting on the games. That's writing. That's doing reviews of games. That's making content, guides, news, all kinds of things around games and game design and this whole quote unquote game industry as a whole. And it's so interesting just what is available today that wasn't available 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And we could bemoan, we can critique, we can say some things are working and some things aren't. We would like it to be different. And that's all a part of this, kind of general conversation. But when it comes down to the waste of time perspective, I think we have to draw a hard line in the sand and see what that applies to. Sometimes I always kind of use the concept of seeding, like preparing, like a waste of time might, working on my golf game could be considered a waste of time if I'm, if I'm actively saying, hey, I want to become a professional golfer, but I'm not using that time I'm playing golf with that goal, right? So, and there's nothing also wrong, let's just clarify this, wasting time, as long as that's what you're choosing to do. If I'm trying to become, let's say, a top tier esports Halo Infinity player, for lack of a better example, and I'm spending my time playing Minecraft. Well, I would say that towards my goal, yes, I am wasting time. If I am choosing to sit here and relax and play a game for the sake of resting, well then no, that's not a waste of time. I'm resting because tomorrow is going to be a tough day and I want to blow off some steam, whether that's creatively or in a action game in which that I can get some kind of adrenaline, have some kind of, I guess, throughput and thought into that regards. But it's really quite I really enjoyed watching this clip and then going and actually watching more of what was said in that podcast. It's really quite fascinating. I don't think ever, not ever, it's really quite fascinating. I don't think maybe in the short term would be on Joe Rogan's podcast, but that would be a really cool conversation to have, especially with him when it comes down to content creation, when it comes down to, what it means to make content on the internet around games. And then there's still many categories, right? You have the professionals, you got the esports, you got the big streamers, you got all kinds of different avenues of things that are creating entertainment, that are creating conversation, that are generally being a community. Something where one of the things that I wish this video would and this clip would have hit on is the concept they have these communities that form around these games to have conversations, to support each other, to talk and be there, especially like when we talk about what's going on in the world today, being able to sit down and have and not feel alone. I don't know if anybody, I know that, it's personally speaking for myself, it's that as an adult, as a male, it can be kind of lonely. It's having this community here at Ginger Prime, having the community, the bigger community of kind of work to game and streaming, it does give me that sense, kind of camaraderie. And hopefully I'm able to give that to you. Hopefully I'm able to give that back to you. But that's one thing that obviously I haven't heard anybody else be talking about here at this point in time. I don't really have a final way to kind of wrap up this video. I know that for me, video games have been substantial to my life and to my family. And as a parent, there's obvious concerns in which that you don't want that dopamine, that addiction to form so that they're not able to function as an adult, because at some point as an adult, I have to set the game aside and I have to go do the work. And then I have to make sure that I'm available to my family. And then, there's times in which that I have to say no to the things that I want to do so I can do the things that I'm supposed to do, that I've sworn to do, that I've vowed to do, that I'm legally required to do. Hopefully my motivation, it hits the want and the kind of my vows before legal has to step in and enforce me. That's the goal. That's how I define success. It's like I did it. I did what I promised I was going to do, and I did it out of love. But obviously, there's this is just kind of a bigger conversation. My biggest concern about this clip going around is it doesn't really set the context. That's the danger of sharing on social media. I'm sure we're going to see hundreds, if not thousands, of raging people, not understanding what Joe Rogan's really talking about. And I think there's a good conversation to be had and a good way that we can look in the mirror and reflect on these words and go from there. But I'm gonna leave it at that. I've said my piece. As always, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you thought this was an interesting conversation, especially as it relates to the greater context, understanding what was actually being said and not just what was said and why something was being said, I would love it if you share this video out. That's actually the best way you can ever thank a content creator, is by sharing their work with others. And yeah, that's the best way you can say thanks. And hopefully you enjoyed it. But if not, I'm always interested in having these conversations with you and what you thought. Maybe I could have said something better. There was no script here. This was just general coffee chat. Brian sitting down, looking at this video that's going viral and saying, I wonder what really was said, and then giving my thoughts. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you've had a good weekend. And if not, hopefully this video and this conversation made it just a little bit better. But anyway, I want to wrap up. Guys, thanks so much for watching. My name's Brian. This is Ginger Prime. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.